Welcome to From Pixels to Celluloid, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of video game adaptations.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode from Pixels to Celluloid, a podcast about video game adaptations. I'm your host, Hyperson55, and I have my homie with me. Please introduce yourself once again.
Hey guys, it's Vincent from Canada, writer of One More Game and other things gaming, complete total nerd, trying to be a writer and an author, enjoying the year so far, all 38 days of it. 39.
Yeah.
There's a 31st in January. Yeah.
I'm no mathematician, so I'm not even going to try. I'm terrible. Yeah, a belated New Year to all. Hopefully yours is off to a good start. Mine is happening. Let's put it that way.
Well, my New Year doesn't start till April because that's the end of the fiscal year has to end and Lunar New Year has to start. So many New Years. This is the New Year season. New Year, new me.
How have you been, sir?
Doing well. Catching up on games and series. Yeah, Fallout Season 2. It just blended into the new year, ended 2025, started 2026. It's one of those funny accidents that happen in these TV seasons. I'm also watching a lot of The Pit and currently playing Yakuza Kiwami 3, which is coming out in a few weeks. Next week, I think. Yeah, so February 12th. Looking forward to Resident Evil Requiem.
Yes, indeed. And we'll have that later on in the episode. For me, things about The Pit. I haven't got around to it yet because I'm currently watching through. Finally, about getting around halfway through that show. So, other than that, watching a lot of anime, playing some the Final Fantasy VII remake demo on Switch 2 and demo, which is pretty good. I had a lot of fun with that. Capcom are doing some very interesting thing, gameplay of shooting and then doing those weird little codes while you watch the video and just that seems a bit weird. But when you play it and then once you've a few enemies, you're like, oh, and then you're just what are the possibilities? Maybe potential different enemy types or other things you'll get to do down the line. So, Capcom are going to do with this new game.
Yeah, one thing that I really appreciate about Capcom as a AAA developer is how they're putting a lot of effort into their R&D, which is almost unthinkable for a AAA developer. It's always about, releasing the next big thing, cannibalizing that last game. But with them, the other year they had Kunitsugami, this really fantastic strategy game that blended action elements to it, as well as Exoborn. Didn't quite hit the stride, but not the Dino Crisis sequel that we all wanted. But they tried something new, and they're okay to fail a little, to create the next Resident Evil, to create the next Street Fighter, right? To create the next Monster Hunter, really AAA, well, they also have the budgets for it, right? They've been really privileged and really fortunate to get all these big games to succeed, so that these titles that indie developers do on a ride or die style type of development, they get that going. So I'm really fortunate that we have companies like Capcom that do that, and they looking forward to Pragmata. It's releasing April, and seeing where that game goes. I haven't played it myself, so probably try out the demo when I find the time one of these days.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend Curious because the demo gives you a pretty good understanding of what and there's a bunch of different options for like gameplay controls. You even get like some and like depending on how quickly you go through the demo. I played through the demo twice, and I got 2 different end screens. So yeah, it's definitely like something to check in on. I might even do another, see what happens at the end again. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, like how things like those work, right? Like how things build when like sequels, right? Like for example, if you have like a title, if you have a piece of art, and the same way like how indie developers have like an original idea, kind of like for every Hollow Knight that's built, there's like 10 other roguelike games that didn't really hit its stride, right? And then there are those rare ones where they get a game, it had a lot of potential, like even a movie or even an anime series, right? It had a lot of potential, but it didn't really hit its potential. And then the fans loved it anyway and supported it, like from the get-go, like, oh, I love this, but like it didn't really hit it. And then the sequel comes out and it's like so fantastic, what's that? And then you have the third game, or basically the sequel, when they hit the right notes the first time, right? And then they go, this is fantastic, and it's just like not really hitting the right notes. And then you have the critics, you have the internet sending all their comments, right? But from a creative standpoint, you're just going, how hard it is to build on something that already exists and exceeding all that expectations. I guess that's the stress that comes with like every AAA game or every series that have created something fantastic, and then now they have to do the same thing and then top that. Like imagine that kind of Herculean task, and then the fans believing in you and then losing that belief the moment they didn't get what they want, right? It's a funny treadmill that sequels and follow-ups have to get into.
No, absolutely. Like, it's a very difficult balancing act. And again, if you're paying attention when it comes to certain films, TV shows, or like, video, they've all had like, certain franchises that hit the ground running and made something amazing the first time round, or like you said, had something that was decent, a little bit more refinement, had the sequel, the second product come out, amazing, everyone loves it. There's this sort of like unwritten rule about like, creating, it has to be better. And if it's not, then you will get the full wave of harassment from your fans or like, critics. And yeah, man, it's a tricky. I don't envy anyone that has to do that. I mean, even me as an illustrator, I find to like go back to certain, stuff when I'm doing certain fan art on my own original work, because I'm like, seeing things that I've drawn 10 plus years ago, and I'm like, that's the most amazing thing I've ever drawn. I don't be able to do that again. And sometimes you can make a better thing, or at least a different good thing, and not have to compare it. But yeah, man, especially in this day and age where everything has to be either good or bad. There's no nuance in between. It's a tricky thing, man. It's a tricky thing.
So how, like, in that vein, how did Fallout Season 2 really, like, take away from the phenomenal Season 1 previous to it? It just ended last week, right? Last Tuesday, the finale came out, and yeah, and I had to rush to watch it, because you know how the internet is. The memes started coming out in 2 hours.
Yeah. And even the social media accounts were starting to post things from the conclusion. Well, I'm glad I only just saw that screen cap, and that was about it. I could have seen a lot more. And it's the fault of being on the internet. Like, within 24 hours or 2 days after something, they'll start posting clips, and I'm like, yo, man, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy, because like I think it came out, the last 2 episodes came out on Tuesday instead of the Wednesday drop, and I didn't get to watch. Like I had like my week last week was really packed, so I wasn't able to watch it till Thursday. And even like in 48 hours, like, there were all these memes, like, and I'm just going, wow, thanks for that, screenshot, guys. Like, great, something to look forward to while watching the episode. But yeah, it was, still, like, I don't think it took away from my overall, enjoyment of the episode. I'd say, like, it's kind of like seeing the frame and then you're going, it kind of affirms certain things that I already am anticipating. And watching it with that knowledge in mind, I'm just like, okay, that's cool. It's something to look forward to. But then again, like, I would really say that the finale, really paid off what they were trying to do with the season as a whole.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, as a think Fallout Season 2 did a lot of really good things. As a sequel series, you dive deeper into the characters, into the story, certain details that were left open in the previous series. You get to learn more about it in this one. And there's a whole bunch of new things to learn, new information to take in, certain conspiracies and bits of information that you'll learn over the course of the series. Some things that are on. I enjoyed a lot of it. I think Fallout as it falls into the camp of that first season really took a lot of people by surprise, really good. So it doesn't have that same sort of that you have with the original being as well as new and unique. So once you've adjusted to the world, the vaults, is it all these bits and bobs here and there, you're like, okay, what's the next big thing that's going to wow me or interest me? The intrigue, there's certainly wows to be had, and I feel like a lot of the stuff I liked about the first season, I like it, but there was just certain things that just didn't coalesce, and certain things that just didn't feel as captivating to me, certain character and story stuff. But otherwise, it's still a good season, though.
Yeah. Well, I really like to start off with what I liked with the overall season. I think the biggest one with me, well, besides the obvious, but like I'll start off with the not so obvious. I really liked how Maximus was developed this season. I really felt he was one of the weaker characters in the first season that could have been explored more. And at first, like, his absence in the pilot season episode, I was a little like, okay, that's pretty. But one thing that I looked at the pilot episode, it's really centered around the relationship between Lucy and the ghoul, and some of the people that they left behind in Vault 31, 32, 33, that triple vault thing. While the following episode, it was centered around Maximus, and it was such a slow burn. I really didn't know what they were trying to do with it, but I guess like once the episode 3 came out, that tied all 3 episodes together and paid off a lot of what's being built on Maximus, I was going like, okay, let's, I'm on board. Let's see where they take this character. And the arc really pays off. Like, I really think he's the most improved character of the whole season. As a whole, like, I really liked what they did with him, on the final episode. It was perfect. Like, I think that was like one of my biggest highlights of, that episode and season 2 as a whole. Aaron Moten's a really good, performer. Really took it home. Like, really made me care for the character. It was like he was the character that like I was kind of iffy at the very start. Well, of course, Walton Goggins. He's the man, like just a 1-2 punch. Like really coming up. Can't be a renaissance right now because like, he's been a character actor all his life and finally starting to get the credit that he's due. With this series and with White Lotus and with everything else in between. Like, I'm really looking forward to what he will do in the future. Such a good actor. Such a great actor. And also, while we're at it, the addition of Justin Theroux as Mr. House, like Robert House. He transformed. Like, who is this guy? Like, I recognized him from somewhere when he showed up at the very first episode, right? Like, such a scene stealer. And it's like, he's Justin Theroux. Like he looks so different. Like, why? Like, what's with the Clark Gable look? Like, it was great. Like, probably my favorite character in the whole season. That's like one of the new characters that came out the whole season. But everyone really did a good job. It's like it's really hard to like, like I'm not really looking for a weak link with the actors. Like every actor did their job, from the cameos all the way to like the returning characters, the recurring characters. Like even Thaddeus, like he like without him and Norm, right? Like without these like characters, like they really made up. They're all cogs in the machine that made this world work. It's like cool performances. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I'll echo most of the message from everybody involved was really good. Again, with Walton Goggins and Ella Purnell were my top two, and that still. And I find Lucy and the Ghoul stories to be the most interesting to me, just because of what they've been through as characters. Show started, what we saw with season 1, and then learning about some of their as the season went on, and how they handle things not only as a pair as well. Again, I always love when you get sequel of some kind and you get to dive deeper into the characters, present them with new challenges, and how these new scenarios affect them and change them. And you can see that at the end of season 2 aren't the same as they were, which you'd expect for season's kind of story. But I enjoyed that. The stuff going on in the 31 to 33 was pretty interesting. Again, dynamics between those characters changed, and some of the secret revelations going on with some of those characters was Norm. He definitely stepped up and became a more with his little side quest. And one of the things I like about the World of Fallout Elite show is how we get to learn more about the wasteland and the different factions involved. And season 2 definitely made this world feel a lot bigger. It's not like it wasn't big before, but when you realize, okay, this sort of faction's here, this one's here, certain people are beefing, certain people haven't been around for a while, XYZ, it's like, oh, okay, there is a heck of a lot going on here. I would say that, yeah, there's so many fascinating details where I wanted to know so much about everything. I just felt like sometimes it's like, oh man, there's so much going on. I felt like maybe a little streamlining could have helped, because now I want to know about all of this different stuff. And with the amount of different things that were placed in certain episodes, it just felt like, oh, maybe there was a bit too much here, because by the time we get to the end, I'm like, okay, we still mostly got to the end here, but it felt like there was not as much of it wasn't as smooth sailing towards the end like the first season.
That's my biggest criticism with season 2. The whole the pacing issues. I find myself kind of drifting after a while. The moment it hit episode 4, episode 4 was a great episode. But 5 leading to 8, it felt like an uphill climb. The pacing was. It was terrible. And one thing that I noted is somebody who has played the games, the ones that it's really based on, 3, New Vegas especially, and Fallout 4. There are some nuances that I might be privy to because I've played the games and I know the world and the fauna that anime-only watchers may not have any context with, right? The introduction of the Deathclaw. Possibly somebody who's seen it for the first time would probably go, "Oh, that's menacing." But I guess for fans, "Oh my God, they're fighting a Deathclaw,"
Yeah.
It's something cool, which leads to the fight. Yeah. The Deathclaw is the big set piece that they're really pushing for this for the season, as well as the whole New Vegas timeline, Robert House, that type of thing. I do wish I kind of felt season 3 would be necessary to resolve this whole issue. Because like, I was like waiting for certain factions that were present in New Vegas that were not introduced, but heavily teased, for the lack of a better term. Yeah, I would have loved to seen more of the Legion. The Legion, playing the New Vegas game. Yeah, they're quite they're big characters, it's also kind of funny. Like New Vegas is one of my favorite Fallout games that came out, really. And my feeling with season 2 is kind of like how I felt with the first half of season 3 of Game of Thrones. I love the Storm of Swords, the third book, and I was going like, you're gonna do the whole book in one season, and then okay, they're splitting it into two. So yeah, and there are a lot of teases of like how New Vegas is connected to the original Fallout 3, like since Fallout 3 is more East Coast, New Vegas is more West Coast, and kind of bringing it all together to finish in Fallout 2, like season 3. So yeah, they're saying they're gonna inject some season 4 stuff into it, which is like, okay, we'll see. But yeah, like otherwise, looking forward to season 3, though, like I wish there's like better pacing for the next one. We're always comparing to season 1, and as stated earlier, season 1 really did a great job, and now it has to match that and exceed that, which, kind of fell short, but still a good watch nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like any of the negatives I have towards this season means that it's like a bad thing, because certain people will take any sort of negativity and put it down as like, oh yeah, so you hated it, or you think it's like, crap. And I'm like, no, you have to listen to the entire sentence, please. Fallout Season 2 does a lot of really cool things. Again, there's some really cool and interesting flashback material, which was super compelling. Again, the set design and the use of CG in the show is blended very well. It feels like this is a lived-in world with all these sort of strange and interesting characters and locations. And as someone, again, who has super minimal knowledge of Fallout stuff from the small time I played New Vegas and Fallout Shelter on my phone and my Switch, even I was able to notice certain details here and there which feels authentic to it, but I was mostly just going into it blind. And I was just fascinated and intrigued, and Kyle MacLachlan is just super fun. I never get tired of seeing that guy on the screen. He makes me happy. And
damn good coffee.
And to go back to Maximus, I think I might have said in our previous discussions that he was probably the weakest character for me in the last season, where his whole arc in the first season didn't feel like it was entirely boring. It was just that I felt like his character just didn't stack up too well compared to Lucy and the Ghoul, and this season felt like it gave him a lot more to do. It felt like he had a little bit more agency and a little bit more of a plan of, or at least a course of attack. And he found himself in way more interesting scenarios than what were going on with him before. And so by the time the story had concluded, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm actually, curious to see what happens with you as a character, as opposed to before. I'm like, I guess I'll see what you're up to. So yeah, I mean, I really just like the way this show looks. Again, the aesthetic is really good, and I can't remember the name of the composer again. Is that Raman Djawadi? I can't remember. The Game of Thrones composer.
Yeah.
And he's working on this show. And again, his use of Fallout, as its themes in the show is very good. So again, I'm very pleased about that.
Yeah. The one thing that I really appreciate with the existence of the Ghoul is having that 200-year-old character that is our backstory, the eyes to the old world, right? Whereas the beauty of the Fallout video game series is we're always told about this 1950s world that we've seen, and we don't really see it. We just use our imaginations for it, from the remnants, the artifacts, the stories, what's left behind from the old season, which is what made the games fantastic, right? Like, you see that world and then you want to know more about this world, and that's the beauty of this adaptation. Why it's one of my top video game adaptations, like in my list, like so far, because you get to see that world that you didn't get to see when playing the games. You know, like you want to know how that world was like. And yeah, definitely that whole retro punk futuristic 1950s, 1960s type of vibe, right? Where everybody talks like this. Yeah. Yeah, I can't get over that character. That whole Clark Gable thing. But yeah, like I really like the intrigue and how they built up from the first season, you know, like for the longest time you're going like, WTF, Barb? Why'd you do this to us, Barb? Oh my God, Barb! You make us wait a year, Barb. Yeah, and then certain things about certain characters from the present time that will be revealed. Yes, as a Canadian, I have something I really want to say right now, but it's too much of a freaking spoiler.
Yeah, there's a lot of like specific details I want to go into.
Specific details, and I'm just going, I see what you did there. Canadian writers on the show who definitely are voting a certain party. That's a spoiler for someone in the know. But,
yeah.
But that's your fault for being Canadian. But that's your fault for being Canadian. Anyway, and I think the composer you were referring to is Ramin Djawadi. Yeah, Djawadi. Yeah.
Saying his last name has always been a little tricky. I've never actually heard it said out loud.
V's and W's are interchangeable. If it's a V, then it's a W, or maybe it's spelled the way it's phonetic for Anglo speaker, you know.
Yeah, because I know, like, I don't know if he's German, because then, like, that would make it a little easier, because I know that their W's are V's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least they're spoken anyway.
Yeah.
But one other thing to touch on is, like, again, without going into specifics, certain actors made appearances in certain episodes, and I really enjoyed, like, what they did. Certain people were around a lot longer than others. Certain people you may see around next time, and certain, like, and at the time I was just like, ooh, that person's here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I really like what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh. And that's all I'll say.
Does it have something to do with a certain Vegas attraction?
That was definitely one.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the series, this is your cue to watch it to understand some of our inside pokes, because I'm kind of lazy to do a spoiler warning right now.
Yeah, because like it's still fairly fresh, and
yeah.
I want people just to be able to experience it for themselves and not be like, you know, is it completely attacked by the onslaught of people talking about, like, you know, whether the show is great or not. It's still good, and you should watch it. That's the bottom line, baby.
Definitely, but no golfing jokes in this one.
You know what? Speaking of a show that actually, like, you know, had a pretty good first season and then had to follow itself up. Last of the season 2, man. Like, Christ. Without, like, you know, retreading old ground too much, that show had a Herculean task of not only adapting fairly well the original game and then following up with, like, the controversial sequel game, but then also having to try and fit as much of that game into a second season. And it's been a while, but if you were there during 2025 when that show was going down, the descent that show had was meteoric. And the memes that came from a certain episode and a certain line of dialogue has echoed through the internet. And I still see it said, I see the memes, and I'm just like, I don't envy the task that, like...
are we going to be demonetized if we, like, say it out loud? No, we're not going to say it.
It'd probably be best not to, but yeah, I mean... Fallout's in this interesting position where, again, is doing an interesting thing where it's just taking pieces of the games and creating its own original thing, whereas something like, you know, The Last of Us is following directly from the source material but making changes. So I feel like that might even be like a topic for like, you know, a later podcast episode in terms of what is the right approach when it comes to an adaptation, because, you know, you have the direct approach where for some people they want to see the exact same thing, like done one to one. But then there's other people that's like, well, we have that original form. Why are you doing the same thing? Make changes. But then you make changes and then people are just like, but that's not the same thing I wanted. So it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But Fallout, you run into like not so many issues because like you're creating your own thing, but then just taking certain things from like, you know, is it the, your box of toys and then make use of it when you want. And if you still have a right, you know, the right kind of creative team surrounding you, you can get away with a lot of stuff. So that's why I'm more intrigued about adaptations like those, especially when it comes to, you know, the upcoming Resident Evil. And, you know, speaking of Resident Evil, I want to talk about that, like, short film that came out not too long ago. I think it was last week that dropped, right?
I believe so, yeah. I wasn't able to see it, but, yeah, go ahead. Like, you're the one that have seen the short film.
Yeah, so, as some of you may be aware, there's this little game coming out towards the end of February called Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I think some people are excited about that. There's a long-term protagonist from the series that seems to be coming back. What's his name? You know, some sort of Leon S. Kennedy, I think. I kid. But like, in all honesty, like, Resident Evil Requiem is looking really cool. The two different types of gameplay is interesting, and it looks like we're gonna get like something that is scary but also kind of action-based as well. But there was this little short film that was released. I think it's only just around maybe 3 minutes long, and it's called Resident Evil Requiem. Evil Has Always Had a Name. You could sort of consider this like a precursor, as like a little flavor of what will be coming in the upcoming game. And with this short film, you have notable actress Micah Monroe, who has starred in a bunch of, horror stuff over the last few years. I think the most recent thing that she was in that people would remember her from was Longlegs. She's very good at what she does. And it's interesting, with this short film, so much was done in a few minutes than what has happened with a bunch of the other adaptations that we've got over the last like 20 years, which is crazy. So in this short film, it focuses on a mum and her daughter in Raccoon City just prior to, during, and after the major incident that basically wiped out Raccoon City off the face of the planet. But, you know, technically it's just a big crater there where the city used to be. But without going into the area of spoilers, it's like a very like concentrated story on these two characters and seeing how they deal with this situation again just before things happen, and then when you see the incident happening in real time, the way that it's shot, you can tell that it's obviously on a budget, but at the same time they put a lot of effort into the set design, the look of certain zombies that do show up, and it has a very heartfelt kind of vibe to it, especially towards the end. Again, I won't say, but with the way that it ends, it really leads into the characterization of the zombies in this new game. And if you've seen that sort of recent Capcom, direct for lack of better terms on Resident Evil, where they talked about the zombies and how they conduct themselves when compared to how the previous Undead act. It's a really cool way that they were able to bridge the gap with this short film. Again, it's concise, it has something to say, and it just feels so authentic to the Resident Evil experience. And I was just like, damn. Now, if we could only get that in a proper long-term theatrical release, we'd actually be in a very good place.
Yeah, it's a really good heads up. Now you really got me interested into checking out. I love Micah Monroe. I saw her in Follows and that film Watcher. That was a fantastic film set in Romania. Total thriller. Really subverts expectations. And the Longlegs, of course, she was standout performance in that film. So yeah, now you have me liking two things, Resident Evil and Micah Monroe, in a 3-minute video. You sold me on 3 minutes.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I know that this may sound like I'm overselling it, but you have to understand, like, even though I'm not even like, a hardcore Resi fan by any stretch of the imagination, I've only ever played like, a handful of games in the series. I'm just a big fan of the world, its lore, its characters, and I've just wanted to see a bloody good adaptation for crying out loud. We've lived through the Paul W.S. Sanderson universe for like how many years, and like the, I guess, highs and lows of that, because admittedly I've seen all 6 films. There is value in there. There is fun to be had, but looking at that as a good representation of what the games are, no.
Yeah.
And then we talk about like Welcome to Raccoon City from 2021, which again is just offensive to my life. I'm talking about this like I'm a Sonic fan or like a Zelda fan. I hate Welcome to Raccoon City with every inch of my being. It's just such a fail of astronomical proportions. And I understand that they had like, their budget cut during production, and like there's certain things that was outside of their controls, but there are fundamental issues on the basic level when it comes to the script and the casting. Like, what are we doing? So yeah, push that into the garbage. And the less said about that Netflix Resident Evil TV series, the better. I don't know what the hell is going on with that.
You mean Blade?
Lance, I love that man so much. Lance Reddick, man, like, was it R.I.P. But like, God, that wig, my sir. Oh my God, what is going? That was wrong. Yeah. So we live in an era now where there could be a good Resident Evil film. Zach Cregger, I think, has the right idea in terms of, again, borrowing vibes and elements from certain games, but creating their own original thing. Obviously, it probably will be a while before we get to see any footage, but I'm hoping by at least the time we get to the summer, if they haven't individually shown something off, then maybe Summer Games Fest, Keeley might have something to, like, drop during, like, the celebration, because he likes to debut, like, certain film and TV shows every once in a blue moon. If Craig can't get it right, I really want the Resident Evil series just to go on ice in terms of adaptations for a while, because I can't keep dealing with this nonsense, man.
Yeah, we've seen the direct adaptation multiple times fail with this series. But that's the thing, though. It's like Resident Evil, it's a strange beast. When it first came out back in '96 and I was playing it on my PlayStation, it's so bad. Like, the acting and the story, like, anybody watching this is just going like, oh my God, this is so bad. It's like a B movie. They recreated a B movie intentionally. It's like, how do you do something intentionally bad and it turned out that's like 90% of its charm, right? Like, we could talk about the Jill sandwiches all we want, right? And all the terrible dialogue. But that's what made it great. And then add on the gaming factor, the jump scares, the puzzles, and the really cheesy lore, and then you carry it on to like Resident Evil 2, like just the overacting melodrama, that romance between Leon and Ada. You knew each other for 40 minutes. Fucking stop getting attached too quickly. I guess that's what's called, like a really, really exciting first date. Like, what's that? There's research about it. You're in a freaking bridge, a wobbly bridge with somebody, and then suddenly you feel different about them. And then you have like hundreds of zombies and Mr. X chasing after you, trying to kill you. Of course you're gonna fall in love with her. Seriously. Enough about that. But yes, I think that's why a direct adaptation probably won't work, because of those, my opinion of how the games were perceived back in its PlayStation 1 days, right? Then Resident Evil 3 came out, then 4, and then it started taking itself seriously, to when Ethan Winters, when it's just like pure on found footage, just fantastic horror elements. And then I think that's what's happening. People are looking at these new iterations of Resident Evil with its production values, and like just it's better in the long run, like it's so far away from its old B-movie cheesy charm that we all, grew and love. And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of expecting the new Resident Evils to come out, which now at this point in time, an indirect adaptation may be better, right? Like the way that Fallout did it, where we're not following exactly the main story arc from Fallout 3, Fallout 1, Fallout 2, like nothing. You know, you're not following that character. We're following Lucy. It's Lucy's character. One of the many unfortunate people who were thought, well, Lucy was born here, born in Fallout, and not a thought out character. The same thing that, certain characters, well, that's spoilers. But anyway, Zach Cregger can definitely, benefit from that indirect adaptation. And seeing his work in Barbarian, seeing his work in the phenomenal weapons, I really want to see him, prove that into existence. Resident Evil has a lot of lore with the Umbrella Corporation and how, it doesn't just extend to zombies. You have like the mold people in 7, like Resident Evil 7, and whatever it is that they're gonna do in 9. And yeah, it's a virus. It's a biological weapon. It's a bunch of greedy people trying to weaponize something that they shouldn't be weaponized. And, turn some into zombies, turned some into Albert Wesker, superhuman type of thing, right? But, I want to see what, Chris eats so he can punch a rock with his bare hands. But anyway, I really want to know, how they're going to do with that. And then that second half of Barbarian with Justin Long and injecting that type of humor into it, Zach Cregger can probably, hit that stride of that really cheesy, campy Resident Evil type of thing, matching with a really dark and insane, sinister dealings with the Umbrella Corporation, right? He was able to blend that in Barbarian. And even in Weapons with, the main antagonist, she's the scariest thing. But at the same time, she's also weirdly camp and weirdly entertaining, he has that balance, does it much better than Osgood Perkins, honestly. I love Osgood Perkins, but when he tries to go funny, he just the monkey, man.
Yeah.
Stop. No. Okay, we're not talking about the monkey. But I think he did a good job with Keeper, though. But then again, he really had fantastic casting, and he was able to blend that camp. It was a good balance, I would say. But Zach Cregger, I'd say masterclass in that type of adaptation. So cautiously optimistic, but not holding my breath.
There is that, absolutely. And just in terms of another adaptation that I wanted to cover, I want to talk about Iron Lung, because that film is out at the moment and it has been a success story, at least financially. And there is definitely a lot of buzz surrounding this film in terms of what this could mean for adaptations going ahead, not only in terms of what can be done with them, but who can be making them. And I also just want to touch upon a mini review, obviously without going into spoilers, because I think you said that you're attempting to see it at some point.
I will be watching it on Wednesday. I already have a plan for that. So
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went into this film blind. I didn't even know it existed until a good few weeks back. While I was doing some editing for this podcast, and also when we were talking about our upcoming 2026 adaptations, I didn't even know this film was in there until I looked up on Wikipedia. I'm like, oh, Iron Lung, never heard about that. Oh, Markiplier's making this film. What? He's making a movie? So I was like, huh. As I said on my Film Focus review on my other podcast, I've, watched some Let's Plays of Markiplier, especially when it comes to his FNAF gameplay or some of the other stuff. But obviously considering how big he is, his content has extended to certain memes here and there. So if you're online and aware of any sort of online, this sort of personalities when it comes to video games, you know who Markiplier is. And I didn't know he was working on this project, but I went to watch it with a friend of mine who's a big fan. And I came out of the film pleasantly surprised. It's a very sort of unique take on a video game adaptation in terms of the style that it's done in and the way in which it makes use of its practical material when it comes to its location, the makeup and stuff, but also its use of CGI, which when used correctly is really well put together. For a film that was made with like a $3 million budget, you can see that everything was put to good use. And you can see that, unlike a lot of projects that get made, and you can see that this was made for a paycheck or at least just put out there for everybody to take in, you can see that this is a passion project because there was a meticulous level of detail that went into how this film was constructed. And while it is at first a little jarring to see Markiplier, like, in a film acting, you're just like, this is Markiplier I'm looking at right now. You sort of settle into it, and then that sort of fades away, and you can see that he's, really throwing himself into the performance. You start to buy into the mystery of what's going on, and there's some interesting revelations that happen as the film goes on. It's definitely a slow burn. It takes you a little while to get into the rhythm of the film, but once certain things start to happen and certain stuff you get to see or hear start to take place, you're just like, oh, okay, now I'm curious to see what's going on. And then at a certain point, the film just sort of goes sideways and gets a little crazy. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But I enjoyed the atmosphere of it. It's just a very strange yet, cool film. And while I'd say it feels a little long, there was a certain amount of the film that was obtuse. And while I don't mind some ambiguity in my movies, sometimes there were certain details where I felt like, maybe I'd appreciate this a little bit more if I did have a little bit more context. And I've read online in a certain comment section that people who have played the original 2022 Submarine game, this film was a pretty good representation of that, but they were able to understand and appreciate the film a little bit more because they had the context of the whole game as well. So I did some research into some of the lore surrounding this game when I looked it up, and I was like, certain things in the film made sense now that I had the context of some of that game stuff as well. But I would say if you go in there with an open mind, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And again, for a film that was made on this budget and came out during the first weekend with 21 million, that's crazy. I was like, damn, I'm super happy for him. And the fact that this film didn't have a proper distributor, this is a success story for the ages. And again, it does make you wonder, okay, if Markiplier can do it, it does make you wonder, okay, how many other passion projects could come from certain indie games, from other people who have the means and the passion and creativity to make this stuff happen. I just find it very fascinating, this whole situation that's emerged through this late period of January.
Yeah, this is the third thing you sold me today. Yeah, well, you don't have to sell it that hard. I already have tickets. But yeah, looking forward to that. That's a really cool take, and seeing where it goes to. Kind of before I even knew the backstory of what Iron Lung was, it kind of gives me that Skinamarink vibes, right? The whole independently funded film, and then such a big passion project that really looking forward to see how it does. Just swinging back into a topic that we talked about earlier about a certain adaptation from last year, which we will not reenact any of the memes because that's just disrespectful. Craig Mazin is making an adaptation of Baldur's Gate 3, right? So something to look forward to. Did a great job in adapting the first Last of Us, and did his best for the second season and the upcoming third season. So seeing another big fan favorite, Baldur's Gate 3, being adapted, it's probably the way I can experience this media, because I don't have 200 hours lying around.
Understandable.
Playing the game and seeing bear sex, right? And
yeah,
no, it's Baldur's Gate's more than 3 is more than weird kinks. But it is part of it.
I got to play a little bit of it around a month ago. My one of my colleagues I used to work with, she was big into Baldur's Gate 3, and she was saying that she was on a upteenth playthrough, doing it with
Wow.
a very specific character type, and going through this on a hard mode. And it was I think she said there was a sort of permadeath kind of element attached to it as well. So I got to play it for the first time in co-op with her, and yeah, I can see why people are obsessed with the game, because there's so many bloody options in terms of how you can approach battles, and with certain characters they have certain attributes in terms of how far they can hit, how far they can travel. If you wanted to hit somebody, you could either do it long range, close range. You can use the environment to your advantage, or use certain items and combine them with certain things to mess with people. And the conversations that you have and the choices that you have in terms of if you pick this thing, this person will remember that, or this person will be pissed off about that. And I'm like, I could see if I could literally just shut myself off to the world for maybe 3 months, I could get lost in the source of this. It's a very lived in world full of opportunities for good times and bad times and corruption and all sorts of shenanigans. The thing is, with a game with that amount of choice, how do you translate that into a TV show? There's a lot of that you'd have to strip away or get down to the bare essentials. And again, Baldur's Gate 3 especially is a game that's loved by so many people. To try and recreate that in a TV show would be a very difficult task. Not impossible, but I think there's a lot of concessions you'd have to make with that to make it work. I'd be curious, what kind of budget they'd have for the world as well, because while I wouldn't say you need it on this level, part of me is thinking, considering what Amazon put into the Rings of Power TV show, you kind of want a world that looked sort of similar to that, considering the colorful nature and the vastness of Baldur's Gate. But because the property is owned not by, is it Larian who made those games? They worked with the Dungeons and Dragons, people to make that. So technically they own all of that stuff. So ideally, if you're making this, they may end up again going the route of Fallout, where you'd take elements from the games but create your own original thing. And if they successfully made this work, I feel like this would have a kickback to the games, much like, again, Fallout did, and what happened with the Mario movie and a couple other franchises, where, again, if the adaptation works well and gets through to normies, they'll be interested, and those of them who haven't played the game, they'll jump in, which will get a kickback, and then sort of be this self-sustaining circle of goodness for everybody. So that's if this new show works. There will be so many things dependent on this, what's the costume design, who's going to be working on the CG, who's going to do the makeup, what's the location going to be used, who's going to be acting in this, because again, the people are very attached to the voice actors of these of the games as well. So many factors to take into consideration.
Yeah, just going back into the whole direct adaptation and indirect adaptation that we've discussed, Baldur's Gate 3 definitely could use a bit of indirect adaptation. But Craig Mazin, we could see it from what he did in The Last of Us, which was also a series with a lot of vast source material that he could use. But for example, with Bill, the one of the best episodes in that season was a completely original script to show how Bill was before. Well, if you play the game, you just see him at his worst state. Whereas they took liberties in changing that, and it worked. It really did work. And I don't think any of the purists, as you would call it, complained about it. It's a bit of a surprise. Let's say, I was kind of looking forward to see him interact with this version of Ellie and Joel, but I'm down. I'm down with this version. And yeah, with that in mind, I could see that example and apply it towards Baldur's Gate 3. And I'd say he could probably, using season 1 as a barometer, pick and choose which kinds of scenarios he would adapt towards the underlying theme of that season for Baldur's Gate 3. And hopefully, but I'm a lot more forgiving than most diehards are. I really want to know how many people really didn't like that Bill episode, and oh, that's not how it worked in the TV series. It's not the point. But something done really well, and Craig Mazin is a thematic writer, and he sticks to the theme, and that's what elevates his episodes more. There's a lot of episodes in the first season of The Last of Us that really took it home, really respected the source material, and also with the guidance of Neil Druckmann, right? So it was his original vision all along. So yeah, also cautiously optimistic. But then again, as somebody who hasn't played the games, I basically have that to go with, right? Because I didn't watch Return to Silent Hill, and I don't have the motivation to, even though it is directed by Christoph Gans, the one who adapted the first Silent Hill that was just very decent when it came out back in 2006. Quoting Jeremy Johns, right? He hasn't played Silent Hill 2, and he only has that piece of media to guide him through the world of James Sutherland, right? Who has a very who has a really deep and underlying trauma and backstory, and this whole journey of his Silent Hill 2, which made it the best of the series. And with that as his his first experience of watching, like, experiencing Silent Hill 2 is someone who kind of like would want to experience how to eat sushi from a from a lack of a better term, a gas station sushi, right? Like, that's your first experience with sushi. Of course, it's not going to be great, right? And as you can see from the IMDb and in Rotten Tomatoes consensus, I guess that's where the argument of, yeah, it's bad, right? Like, because we earlier tried to make a caveat of Fallout Season 2 didn't meet the Herculean expectations that we expect from Fallout Season 1. But seriously, someone who has made a pretty decent Silent Hill adaptation, adapting like the Silent Hill 2 years, like decades later, I guess it was a lightning in a bottle that he couldn't match. So, unfortunately, that's where it goes.
I'll briefly touch upon that film because I did have I'm not sure how to call it pleasure. I'm not sure. I saw the film, let's just put it that way. And I was curious because, again, I saw the 2006 film for the first time during COVID. And then I saw it again literally a few days before I ended up watching the new one. And for what it was, like, the 2006 film got a lot right in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the vibe, the use of Akira Yamaoka's music. They changed a few things here and there, especially towards the end, and some of the plot and character stuff from the games that was changed was odd in terms of its changes. But again, it's a decent film, all things considered. But with this new film, with it being more directly tied to Silent Hill 2, a game that's very well respected, well liked, and had a remake not too long ago, people understand exactly what this is in terms of the story, what it's saying, its themes, and there's a lot of nuances which is required. And this film, from what I've heard, because again, I've not played Silent Hill 2 myself, made a lot of concessions and changes. And even without that, this film is very odd. It's strange. It's like, I feel like Gans now had the budget that he didn't have to make the original film, because this film feels a lot bigger in scale. There's a lot more CG on the screen, and you can see that they're going as hard as they can to try and create this sort of visual style. And at times it can look nice. Certain bits of the environment looks cool. Certain bits of the color scheme, the use of lighting, and some of the creatures that you see in there, they look good. But the story is not nearly as engaging as it should be. Even as someone who hasn't played the games, there was a certain level of nuance that I feel like this film was missing. Certain things that they're knocking you over the head with. Oh, you see this? This is related to this. And then there's other times where this film feels like it's strangely ambiguous, but not in a way that feels like it's trying to be smart. It's just like, I don't know if you had anything to say. There's also just very strange dialogue exchanges between the characters. This story has a lot of like heart, a lot of drama, and you don't feel that from the main character. For something that's supposed to be psychological in nature, it wasn't there. And the film commits one of the worst kind of sins with its ending. I'm not going to say what it is, but by the time it ended, I'm like, you're really going to try and do that right now? How dare you? I felt insulted. And I'm just like, wow. Not even the fact that Akira Yamaoka was the sole composer for this film, where they've done like, some changes to the themes, but still utilize certain things that you're familiar with. Even his work in this film can't save this film for what it is. It's another nail in the coffin for something that's attempting to be more of a direct adaptation. They made changes, but it would have been much better just to go with the approach that they had from the 2006 film, because now Silent Hill already had like one okay adaptation and a pretty crappy one that followed up in like, was it 2012? And now you've got this one that sort of sets the franchise back again. It's the kind of franchise that really needs a win in terms of the adaptation space. And with like, the remake and Silent Hill F, it was sort of in an upward trajectory, but now it's just like, who knows when there'll be another adaptation. And I don't think anybody will want to see one anytime soon. You'll really need to get someone who has that sort of keen eye for storytelling, for horror, but will also approach the subject matter with respect, because this approach was not it, mate. The swing and a miss.
Yep, as expected from the general consensus. But yeah, I think I'll stick to what I've played in PS2, and I think I'd be better for it.
It's the safer option, mate. Like Silent Hill for now, just stay in the world of video games where you can be safely controlled. And, if it goes wrong, we can just, complain at Konami again like we did in the years before.
Well, they have been that scapegoat, and now they're trying to do their apology tour, I guess,
Yeah.
with making Metal Gear Solid Delta and also Silent Hill F, which is one of my favorite games of last year, like bar none. It's fantastic. It's a short and sweet experience, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But yeah, really looking forward to Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I do like that. It's a game that will give you, they really know their target audience. They have those that just wants to beat the crap out of zombies and roundhouse kick them in the head, which I just don't get. Maybe why I still haven't completed Resident Evil 4, because I'm just I don't know, it just felt so different from the Resident Evil 1 and 2 that I really loved. 3 was an odd duck. 4, 5, and 6, not a big fan. I know that 4 did revolutionize certain things in video games, where the over-the-shoulder type of action. I can't imagine any action game having that Metal Gear Solid 2 interface. That was painful. Just be first person if you're gonna do that. Not gonna get into it. But anyway, yeah, as much as I look forward to seeing Leon coming back, I think the more survival horror type of fan in me would opt for the survival horror path. Since I'm going to be reviewing this game anyway, I'm going to have to play the action part. Oh, roundhouse kick to the face. Jesus, give me a break. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm in the minority camp. I'm the hipster in the group, I guess. So, anything you're looking forward to in the next couple of months, Kurt?
Oh, God. Let's see. It's February now. Even though it's still a couple months away, I'm very curious to see what happens with the Mario movie, the Mario Galaxy movie. In the time since we were on the podcast last, there was another trailer that finally showed off Yoshi. We got to see a little bit more of some of these other worlds that again are related to Mario Galaxy and Mario Odyssey. A little bit more of the humor. The film looks great. And again, Nintendo are doing their best right now to grab all of us fanboys by the balls and just say hey man, look at all this goodness that you remember from these games that we've put into the movie. And I'm you got me. So I'm very intrigued. I'm sure this film is going to be a lot of fun. I just pray that again, we have less licensed music, more of a cohesive stories and character development. I don't think that's too much to ask for, but I am not going to be surprised if I don't get the film that I want. I know this film is aimed at children, but again, that's no excuse for quality storytelling. Kids deserve good stuff, so treat them with some bloody respect. But yeah, the Mario movie is mostly my main focus at the moment. There's a few other games I'd want to be playing right now, but all in good time, when I have time. God.
Yeah, February's really kicking off to game season. I'm getting my review slate, but I think I'll have more to review next year. There's a Oh, next year. Sorry. Already thinking of 2027 this early. Wow, really?
I was gonna say, man, like you really want 2026 to be done.
No, like, this year's been good so far. Like, really looking forward to stuff. What's coming out next month? Replaced. Yeah, that one. That 2D game from Xbox. Finally has a release date. March 12th. Can't wait to see it come out. Speaking of, what's that? Survival horror. Fatal Frame 2, the remake. My favorite of the series. It's coming out too. And if you would indulge me, Life is Strange Reunions coming out next month. The Life is Strange that we didn't ask for. Again, reuniting Chloe and Max. We didn't ask for it, but I'm down. Sure, why not? Last one was, yeah. You can read my review. Also, one big thing, like you were looking forward to Pragmata, I am looking forward to Saros. It's the next bit from Housemarque. They made Returnal. I would say my game of the year for 2021. That was a fantastic game, albeit requiring a lot of skills. Time to get good again, but the storytelling in that game, wow, that's how you do something completely different. And, just looking forward to the bullet hell again and, screaming at the screen and throwing my controller and buying a new DualSense just to figure out what's going on and the nuanced sense of their, art house story lives. Just that bit, just fighting for that 5 minutes of oh my god, that's such a cool story. It's so profound. I have to get through this fucking boss. Forgive my French. Anyway, that's winter and spring for me.
And I'm sure we'll have plenty more to discuss when we're a little further along in the year, because once April starts to kick off and we get into towards that summer period, there's a bunch of different things that'll be showing up. And yeah, we'll have Mortal Kombat by that point. And I think by the time we get to, I think it's September, October, Resident Evil and then Street Fighter will be out as well. God, what an interesting time we'll be in by the latter side of this year. Criminy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Last year was pretty light on a lot of media, which was kind of strange, but at the same time refreshing, I would say. Gave me time to breathe. Because I remembered 2023 and 2024 was just all the delays just dumped, and then spending 600 hours in gaming. That's why I don't have the 200 hours freaking Baldur's Gate 3. More power to your coworker who's going through hard mode. Right now, 50 hours is kind of my limit. The moment I go past 50 hours, you have a problem. You gotta stop.
Fair.
That Magic the Gathering thing you picked up last year and just dropped out of the hat because of the Final Fantasy thing. Oh my god! Way to get someone back in the game and have all this cardboard I'm not using.
That's understandable. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that went into, buy those games physically just for the cards, and I'm and it starts again. Danger.
Danger.
All right. Well, I think we should bring this episode to a close, but I really enjoyed having our little discussion. This was really fun. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I pass it on over to you. What topics of the conversation did you enjoy, and do you want to contribute to whatever you think? Please let me know in the comment section below, or hit me up on my socials. I am Hypersonic55, or we can be found at the From Pixels to Celluloid podcast on Instagram. I might want to do a TikTok for this thing as well for the promotional stuff, but the last time I tried to set up an account for that, it just sort of was there, and then it kicked me out of the account, and I can't remember the login details, so I sort of gave up. We'll see. But Vincent, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Hey, so I can be found at onemoregame.ph. I write for a publication that really focuses on console gaming. My Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties review is coming out next week. really enjoying certain aspects of that game right now. I have played it before, improved a lot, just as a preview. Because when this drops, my review's probably out. Haha. And looking forward to Resident Evil 9 Requiem. As I said, it's going to be the primarily, the survival horror aspect of it. Don't know my review slate for next month, but hoping to review Saros. Calling dibs on that one since I really loved Eternal. Returnal, not Eternal. It is an eternal struggle. Anyway, yeah, you can find me at Vincent Trinidad at Instagram and all the other things that may be. Thanks, guys.
All right, until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace out and good gaming. Is that the right thing to say? And watch good films, yeah, try that.